Good evening. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. It's Tuesday of Holy Week, and I thought we'd tackle another hymn, a very important hymn. It's the Vexilla Regis, which is a Latin hymn which was premiered in the year 569, I think. So an awful long time ago. It was written by the Bishop of Poitiers, a man called Venantius Fortunatus, now revered as a saint. He wrote this for a procession for a relic of the True Cross, which was being received in Poitiers. And it used to be sung in the Divine Office virtually every day of Holy Week. I first came across this hymn because when I was studying English, Old English, Anglo-Saxon at Oxford, one of the things they pointed out to us is the great Anglo-Saxon poem, The Dream of the Rood, is somehow connected to the Vexilla Regis, in that the poem was written by somebody who was clearly familiar with the Vexilla Regis. So it's one of the great Christian hymns, 1,500 years old. There is a tune to it too. If you go on YouTube, you can find, if you just type in Vexilla Regis, you'll find choirs doing the plain chant version of the Vexilla Regis, and also various other composers who've produced arrangements of the Vexilla Regis. But it's the words and the theology that are most important for me, I think, not so much the tune. Here are the words. Abroad the regal banners fly, now shines the cross's mystery. Upon it life did death endure, and yet by death did life procure. The first thing they're pointing out to us is the dual nature of the cross. The regal banners fly. The banner is the cross. It's regal. Now, the cross is the symbol of suffering and death, the way the lowest of the low are put to death. But because Christ has suffered on the cross has become a royal throne. So it is lifted up. The cross is lifted up and it's honoured because on this cross the King lay. And of course, the fundamental paradox is death did life procure. In other words, by dying on the cross, he won our life. So the cross is an instrument of death and it's an instrument of life. It is the cross of death and the tree of life. It is the place of suffering of the criminal, and it is the place of the exaltation of the king. That which the prophet king of old hath in mysterious verse foretold is now accomplished while we see God ruling nations from a tree. Now, Jesus was crowned on the cross, crowned with thorns, but on the cross, Jesus rules the nations. In other words, Christ is the King. When I am lifted up, I shall draw all peoples to myself. Father, glorify your Son, and by which he was talking about being lifted up on the cross. So Jesus on the cross, suffering horribly, is also the same Jesus who is in glory. His suffering is his glory. His glory is his suffering. Again, the dual nature of the cross. Blessed tree, whose happy branches bore the wealth that did the world restore. The beam that did the body weigh, which raised up hell's expected prey. In other words, this horrible, bleak cross is a blessed tree, and the fruit of the tree, the cross is a dead wood, isn't it? But the fruit of the tree is the salvation of the world. So from this horrible stump, this terrible dead tree, comes the fruit of life. Once again, the dual nature of the cross. Hail, cross, our hope. Ave crux, spes unica. Hail, cross, our only hope. On thee we call, who keep this mournful festival. Grant to the just increased grace, and every sinner's crime efface. So the cross being an object of terror, horror, and despair, because after all, we know what the cross is. It is the place where one suffers. At the same time, is the place of hope, the only hope that we have, something that grants us an increase of grace. Our salvation is the cross. Now, you could think about this in the following way, that you have the horror of the cross on Good Friday, and you have the glory of the resurrection on Easter Sunday, and there is a gap in time between the two. But that is not what the author of the Vexilla Regis is saying, or indeed the author, anonymous author of The Dream of the Rood. They're saying the cross is the moment of horror and the moment of glory at the same time. And in the Dream of the Rood, he says he looks at the cross and he sees it a horrible sort of blood-stained timber, and then it sort of turns, and in the light he sees it's covered in jewels. In other words, he sees the cross is a glorious relic at the same time. So the cross is a shameful thing, a horrible thing, and yet it is also the one thing that gives us great hope. It is a glorious thing. So Good Friday, and I suppose that's why we call Good Friday good. All the very best. Speak to you again. Bye for now.